I am going to give a presentation that I've actually been doing this in America. I speak to Sons of Norway lodges and I give them my Great Norway Adventure presentation, because if I said Alt for Norge, some of them might not know what that is. So even they wouldn't even know that means All for Norway. So let alone a TV show that is wildly popular in Norway. So I've been doing this in California, and I did it in Minnesota already. So, and there's other lodges that are, have me on their schedule. So I'm looking forward to presenting this. And I also presented this to the Sons of Norway Lodge in Oslo. And then a few nights ago, I presented it to the Sons of Norway Lodge in Sandnes. And wherever I go, it's warmly received because it is a heartwarming story and an amazing journey. All of the competitions we did and all the places we went, it's truly, as they said, when I read the newspaper, when it was a casting call for the show, it was a once-in-a-lifetime adventure, and they weren't kidding. It was a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. So, oh, I got to turn my clicker on here. 1 second. And I'm going to start with, this is my mom, Renee Hegreberg, and she passed away in April of 2012. So even though I had auditioned the year before and I wasn't selected, she knew about Alt for Norge and what this was and all that. She didn't know that I was actually on the show, and she doesn't know that I'm here. So I'm dedicating this performance tonight, or this presentation, in her honor. And she truly was a Hegreberg. And so, a little bit about me. As it says there at the very top bullet point, I'm 62.5% Norwegian. And I'm 25% Danish. My mom was all Norwegian, so my grandpa Hegreberg, he was all Norwegian. And then her mom was all Norwegian too. So my mom was all Norwegian, even though all her parents were born in America. But my dad, he was half Swedish, so that's where I get my 25% Swedish. And then his dad's dad was from Denmark, and that's where I get my last name from. And then his grandma was Norwegian from somewhere in northern Norway. I have to figure that out one day. But I was born in Minnesota, and I currently live in Los Angeles. And for the show, this is for, I guess, the Sons of Norway Lodges. You folks would know this, but anyways, the side of the family that they happened to focus on was on Truls Hegreberg, and then his son Andrew, who I just recently found out is actually Anders. So, Anders Hegreberg. Although someone told me a story, it might have been you, Magnus, that when he went to, or no, I think it was Elvin said that when he went to America, he used someone else's ticket, so he went as Andrew Thompson. And so it wasn't, as he arrived as Andrew Thompson, so that can make it difficult if you're trying to track who came through and who was doing what. So anyways, but he got the name Hegreberg back when he moved to the first place he went, which I think I have right here. Oh, there he is right here. Here's Anders, and there's Anna. And of course, Andrew grew up on the Hegreberg side of the valley here, and Anna grew up on the Varberg side. So, and then when he came in 1882, he immigrated to Forest City, Iowa. And then she came in 1886, and she went to Irwin, Iowa. And if I read the story right, her brother had already moved there, so that's why she was in Iowa. And they were married in Armstrong, Iowa in 1898, and then they moved to Minot, North Dakota. That's a cold place, Minot, North Dakota. And open prairie, there's no woods there. It's just grassland, so very windy and cold. And they were there in 1905, and then in 1919 they moved to Canyon High, and they moved to a couple farms there, and then they ended up in Spicer, Minnesota, and that's the farm where they finally settled. And then my grandpa took over that farm from his father, and I spent every Thanksgiving there, and every Christmas, and every Easter, and every fourth Sunday in June, we had the Hegreberg Family Reunion there. So, and I'll show you a picture of the farm here in a second. But unfortunately, the farm was sold in 2012, 2 weeks before my mom died. They sold the family farm. So in a matter of 2 weeks, the family farm and my mom, my ties to the Hegreberg family were gone. And I told him that in the audition. I think that was the reason why, one of the reasons I got cast on the show. So why it was so important to come now. Oh, I skipped ahead there. So, I went the wrong way. Let me go back this way. So here's where they got married, right here in Iowa. Then they moved way up here to almost Canada. Cold place up there in Minot. And from what I gather, I read some stories in the Varberg book here from my grandpa's oldest sister. And she said there was a lot of tough times out in the prairies. I think she said one year the army worms came through and ate everything green. And she said at times things were pretty lean. And actually I remember my grandpa saying this too, is that sometimes they just had bread with molasses on it. That's what they ate. And then they would go out and collect cow chips in the field and bring those in to heat the house and cook the food. So that's what life was like there in North Dakota. And probably other places too. So then they moved from North Dakota right down to about here in western Minnesota. And that's where Spicer, Minnesota is. And Kandiyohi County is that whole county. It has a lot of Norwegians that live there. And I think that's why they moved there, because there was, if I'm not mistaken, there was family there already. And there's the family farm, the Hegreberg Family Farm. So here's the house over here. And actually this is a rebuilt house. They had an old farmhouse there when they first moved in. And there's pictures of it in this book here. This is a book that my grandma made, Grandma Hegerberg made before she passed away, and all of us grandkids got one. And it's got not only the Hegreberg family, but her side of the family too. And there's pictures of the old farmhouse. And then they built this house here in the 70s. But this was his farm. It was 350 acres, beautiful farm, rolling, beautiful land. There was little lakes and ducks and lots of deer and a big woods. And he was a cattle farmer. There was usually 200 cattle in this barnyard right here. So he was a very successful farmer, and he was, I often wonder, because they were very, in a sense, I would say wealthy when they retired, and they had the money to travel wherever they wanted in the world, even to come to Hegreberg, but they chose not to. I don't know why my grandpa didn't decide to come back and see this place. I don't know why he didn't do that, so, but I'll continue on here. Then, fast forwarding here to December of 2010, I was living in Los Angeles, and I'm back in Minnesota for the Christmas holidays, and I opened this Minneapolis Star-Tribune, and I'm like, what? The Great Norway Adventure Season 2? What the heck is that? They're looking for fun and outgoing and adventurous Americans? Hey, that's me, kind of, yeah, with Norwegian ancestry, oh my God, to participate in an exciting reality TV series set in Norway. Chosen participants will compete in extreme cultural challenges to discover their rich and fascinating roots. And they are right about that. It's rich and fascinating. And then, win $50,000, but ultimately to meet their ancestors they don't even know exist. When I read that, I was like immediately so inspired. And my background is in theater and acting, and I would never even think of considering, applying for a reality TV show. It just would have never crossed my mind. But when I read this, it was just like, I don't know, it just was so inspiring. And that whole bit about meeting your living relatives was just struck my heart. So anyways, I got my application filled out, and I sent in my video, and I talked to my friends, and they were like, oh my God, you're outgoing and fun and adventurous. You're perfect for this. Of course they're going to choose you. And the days went by, and the weeks went by, and not even an email that said, we got your application, nothing. So I had to finally let it go when I saw that the season was cast, and they were in Norway and having the time of their life, this great adventure. So season 3 rolls around. I'm like, well, I got to do this. I'm still just as excited as I was before. This is going to be my year. I can feel it. So I did the application. I sent in another video. And the days went by, and the weeks went by, and the months went by, and no, it didn't happen again. I can't believe this. Don't they know how fun and adventurous and outgoing I am? I guess they didn't. But then season 4 rolls around, and my wife and I we decided to move from LA. We're going to move to Nashville because we wanted to get a place with some land so we could have horses and chickens and stuff like that. And I wanted to do songwriting again, so we're moving back there, and we're just getting ready to close on a house, and it was the busiest time, the worst time for this to come up. And I knew it was coming, and it was just like I waited till the last week, and I just told myself the least you can do is apply. And I applied one last time, and I just sat down in front of my desk, and I did this really, the least effort to this video. But I spoke from the heart that my mom had passed, and the farm was sold, stuff like that. And then a couple days later, I got a call. And they're like, would you like to come to Chicago for an audition for Alt for Norge? I was like, yeah, of course. And so of the thousands that applied, 60 people were chosen to go to Chicago. And so I'm in there and I'm talking to the person before me, and then I go in and I just knew that this was it. I just had to show up and just bring on the boom and make it happen. And so I got my cowboy gear on, I bring my guitar, and I show up, and so of course I got to play him a song since I'm a country music singer-songwriter. So I'll play you the song that I played, and it was the casting director sitting right here under the bright lights. Then over in the dark shadows were 5 Norwegians. So this is one of my songs that I love to play out. It's very heart-touching. And it's called Better Friends, and it's about being better friends with your dad. I used to blame you for every missing piece in my life. The day you moved away, I didn't really know the reason why. But when you're 10 years old, it's hard to understand. Leaving me wasn't something you had planned. I know you're not perfect. Don't you see? I don't need perfect. I just want you and me to be better friends. I know you love me, even though it's hard for you to say. Do you wish you had been there to see me on my graduation day? Well, all these old regrets, tell me what they're worth. We're like strangers, and that's what really hurts. I know you're not perfect. Don't you see? I don't need perfect. I just want you and me to be better friends. Nothing's gonna change what happened in the past. There's no hard feelings, I hope you know, Dad. I know you're not perfect. Don't you see? I'm not perfect. I just want you and me to be better friends. I just want you and me to be better friends. So they wanted a country music singer-songwriter, and they got one. And so I think I did a good job with the audition, and the very next day I was back in Nashville, sitting at my desk, and I get a call, and it's the casting director in Chicago, and I was like, wow, that was quick. And she's like, yeah, well, would you like to go to Norway? I was like, oh my God. Yes, I would love to go to Norway. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I said, I'm going to go for a walk. And I went outside and I just put my hands in the air and I walked like 2 blocks. Yeah! I'm going to Norway! So, needless to say, I was very excited. And I began this preparation. I was like doing quizzes to get my mind sharp, doing Sudoku, and I was working out just because I knew it was going to be a great, amazing challenge also. Not just an adventure, but an amazing challenge, because I happened to watch season 3 and I was like, wow, they're not kidding when they, extreme cultural challenges. There's some heavy duty stuff happening here, so I wanted to be as prepared as possible. So I gave my alt for Norge before I even left for Norway. So, oh, here's my hometown video. Larsen, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I'm proud to say I'm Norwegian American.
What do you think of that line?
Yeah, well, let's work that in. Writing a song is such a magical process, and it's just something I just love to do.
Woo, hit song!
I met her one weekend going fishing with a couple good friends. The real special moment comes in a songwriter's life when they hear their song for the first time on the radio. So I'm looking forward to that one day myself.
I think this piece goes right there.
My wife and I met in Nashville, actually. And then we gave birth to these amazing kids that we have. There is Stavanger right there.
Oh, there's Stavanger.
That's where Grandma's great-grandparents came from. When I go to Norway, what I'm going to miss the most is my wife and kids. We have a special bond. Even my son the other day was like, how do I say, I love you, Papa, in Norwegian. So they know I'm going on this journey, and I've showed them where Norway is on the map, and they're kind of getting a sense of why this is so important to me. Love you. So I'm so looking forward to that experience.
Bye.
I'll have an actual knowing of what it is to be in Norway and what it is to be Norwegian. Kind of tears me up now, even a little bit. But one thing I didn't expect, because I'd been away from my wife and kids when I moved to Nashville, I was there for 2 months looking for a house and stuff like that. And then, so I'd been away, but we were always able to call and Skype and stuff like that. But on the show, no email, no phone calls, no Skype, no internet, no nothing. And it was tough. Wow, about that 4th week, I remember I was interviewing, or we were doing one of the interviews after one of the competitions. It was actually the competition where we got these sweaters, the Christmas one. And I was just telling them, wow, I'm like at the end of my road. This is so tough, I can barely take it. It's like, I've seen so much beauty already and met so many lovely Norwegians and all that. None of it is worth being away from my family for another day. But what is worth it is meeting my Norwegian family. And it really was what kept me going, because it was such a tough journey. And here I am today in front of my Norwegian family, what I fought so hard for. So even when I left the show, it didn't end, because I just could not. I just kept telling my wife, I just got to complete this thing. I have to go back. And even though we had to, kind of work around things, and because it was just, anyways, it was tough to make this whole thing happen financially, and so, but we worked it out and everything kind of coordinated, and so here I am, and I feel like I've won the grand prize. So I was in Oslo a few days ago, and I was at TV Norway talking to the executive producers, and I told them everyone's so excited, and I'm so excited, it feels like I've won Alt for Norge. And this was the grand prize, this right here. So thank you all for coming out and making this so worth it to come here to Norway. And so here we are at the Norsk Folk Museum on Big Doy, right outside of Oslo there. And the reason I want to show the whole cast here is we have Liv here from Minnesotan. we have, you're supposed to use this pointer here in the middle, Lee from Minnesota, and we have Travis from South Dakota, although he's on the Minnesota border, and he lives in Minnesota now, and Barrett from Los Angeles, but her dad was from South Dakota, Jorgen from Red Wing, Minnesota, Angela from Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, there's me from Minnesota, although living in Nashville at the time, and then Raquel from Las Vegas, although she was from Seattle, and specifically Ballard, Seattle, which is the big Norwegian part of Seattle, where they have the big Set Mai parade every year. And we have Carrick from Pennsylvania, but his dad was from North Dakota. And we have Andy from St. Paul, Minnesota, and Eric from Florida, although he was born and raised in Wisconsin. And then we have Jerry and Colby, they were both from the state of Washington. And so, even though we're all kind of spread out all over the United States, it was either the Midwest somewhere, mostly Minnesota, and then the upper, or the Pacific Northwest and Seattle areas. So, and I think that's pretty much true for each season. That's pretty much wherever, even though they might be from Houston or they might be from Los Angeles, wherever, there always seems to be roots back to the Midwest. So. And then here we are, our very first location, Gerangerfjord. Wow, what a place to show up in Norway. And so, of course, we're all so happy there, all 12 of us. No one has left yet, and we're just doing this first episode is just this competition to see who's safe the next week when we actually go into team competitions to see who goes home. But this was so awesome because we got to, so lucky for us, they're rowing us in the boats out into the fjord, and then we stop right over here along the coast. And then they point up to here somewhere, 1,000 feet up the cliff wall to this farm called Skagafla. It was like, what the heck are we going to go up there for? And we climbed up this side. We didn't know what we were going to do. We climbed up there. And of course, Henrietta introduces the show. And she says, welcome to Norway. And then we got to look around this farm. And it's like, wow, someone went to all the extremes of building a farm 1,000 feet up the fjord wall. Wow, land must have been pretty scarce at that time to, for someone to go to those extremes. So they just kind of wanted to point home why people left, because there was no opportunity. Things were, for those, if you had a big family, the sons or the younger siblings, that what was left was really immigrating to America. So there was reasons for that, and they kind of wanted to give us an introduction to that. So, but and also just a beautiful place to. I remember sitting up on the yard up here in the farm and looking down this way at these snow-capped peaks, and it was like, wow, oh my gosh, it is just beyond gorgeous, and I can see why it's a World Heritage Landmark. It's so beautiful. And so as even people were saying, you got to go to see places that a lot of Norwegians don't even get to go see. We saw some beautiful locations. It was an amazing journey regarding that. So, and there we are rowing the boats out to the fjord there. So fun. And then there's, I don't know if that was about halfway up or it wasn't, either way, it was pretty rickety, the stairs and the rails, and some of the people were afraid of heights, and Travis in particular, and he's like, oh my God. He's this tall guy, 6'5", strong, 22 years old, but he was just like so paranoid the whole walk up there, thinking he might fall or rocks might fall down from the rock wall above, so. Oh, I think we have to go reset the slide there. You have to go because this happened when I was doing it earlier. You have to escape out and then and then go back into the presentation mode.
I remember the guy who was afraid of the heights.
Yeah, Travis. Yeah. He was like, this guy who's so confident. So, oh, there you go. Perfect. So there we are at the top, and they got this helicopter coming with the camera in front, zooming over us. Zooming over the fjord. It was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And of course, you got to, it is reality TV, so it was, as soon as the helicopter flies over, you don't see all of a sudden then the camera crew comes out with the booms and the hoists and the sound guys and the reflectors and the director yelling, Vestre clap and stuff like that. So you don't see it in this picture here because they were shooting with the helicopter, but that was the fun behind the scenes type stuff. And then I love this picture here. We're all so happy still. We don't know what the heck we're in for yet. We're all just getting there and seeing this beautiful location. It's like, whew, this is so fun. And it always stayed fun in a sense, but boy, oh boy, as the weeks went on, And it was just getting, if he went into those elimination rounds, it was so taxing. And then it just became very, as I've been telling people, it was just on every level, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, on every level, it just pushed you to the edge. And again, when I was talking to the producers in Oslo, they were saying that's why people love it, because you see this awakening in people as they go through this journey. Then they get introduced to, hopefully, if you get to go see your family farm or you get a letter and you learn some more, you're just like, wow, you just become so, not possessed, but you really just dig in. You just pull everything you can out of you to make it through those competitions and survive another week. So. And here we are, the first competition. We have this quiz, and we're walking up to the board there. And of course, we had to put the faces to the bodies here of the royal family. And we got these folks right over here. But I couldn't quite tell if that was the king or queen or not, or the prince and princess, but I know we got those folks right there. We were pretty sure of that. So, and Henrietta's smiling there too, so she obviously knew. We didn't get those two right. And then, so the team white was safe. They got the quiz right, so they were safe. So now we go up to the snow. This is Grotli, up above where we were in Grangerfjord there. And so this is our introduction to the snow, because of course, all Norwegians are born with skis on their feet. We know that now, so. And you all were born with skis on your feet?
Yeah.
Pretty much so, no? Not here in Stavanger. And so here we are up in the snow, which is, I think this is the first week of May. And as you can see, we had some fun there in the snow. And we had some snowstorms, odd enough. So, and you don't see it here, but at times the snow's blowing sideways. And of course, you can't have the snow blowing into the camera. So the snow's blowing this way and the camera's pointing this way. So we're standing there being interviewed, and the snow's like piling onto my eyelashes and piling onto my face. And they're like loving it as they're filming us, working through the conditions here as we talk about our lovely stay in Norway. And then here's the first, the first competition was with some kids and doing a Norwegian winter. This was the second team competition. We're actually going to be on skis. And then of course, this one, we're on cross-country skis, but we got to take the toe lift here. There's the little toe lift here that swings around and picks you up. And as it takes you up the hill, there's lines here in the snow. And as you go up the hill, the more lines you cross, the more points you get. And of course, you got to go around the snowman. And then right on the other side of the snowman, there was this person laying in the snow, dressed in red, couldn't figure out what the heck was going on, swearing and cussing. And of course, we were told that that's the Dane. And if you ever see anyone laying in the snow on a mountain, it's a Dane. Just remember that. So, and then ultimately though, Team Red, which is the team I was on, we lost the second team competition. And the team that loses the second team competition goes to the individual eliminations. And that was a stressful experience since I was on that first one. And even though they didn't have that, when they showed it on the TV show, the order was, I think Jerry was first. We drew straws the night before, and I was the first one. And of course, you don't know what it is. You have no idea what's going on, but I knew I was the first one. So it was a very intense experience that night trying to sleep. But of course, here it was. There was a rink, and then they have some stations over here, and you got to go over here, and you got to go through the cones and go to a station, grab the mail, and come through the cones. And this was to kind of show us how in Oslo the streets are often so slippery because no one salts properly, they don't shovel properly, so the people in Oslo have to battle their way through the icy conditions to get to work and to get to a shop and to get the mail and stuff. So what was great was that I didn't know what it was going to be, a quiz, what was it going to be? And so I come up over the hill and I see this rink and I'm like, because when I was growing up in Minnesota, every winter my dad would flood the garden and we had an ice skating rink in the backyard. So when I saw this, it reminded me of home and I knew I would be okay. But up until that moment, it was a rough night's sleep. I didn't sleep very much. And then they had to be up at 7 to start filming. And then, we didn't know what was going on. Then they walk us out there like we're prisoners going to some, execution. It's an eerie feeling. But then I saw the ice rink and I was like, I'm going to be all right. And so here's Jorgen this is what we had to do, go get the mail. But if you dropped anything, that was points added to your time because it was a timed event. And so luckily I did the whole course, I didn't drop anything. When Jorgen got over here, he dropped the milk and the yogurt and he dropped the eggs, which a few eggs broke. And when it came down to it, it was me and Raquel had the best times, and Jorgen actually had the fastest time because he dropped so much stuff. All those penalties were added up, so it was him and Jerry, and there was only 3 seconds that were between the two of them. So as they're standing there, Jorgen and Jerry, I could just see Jorgen's face was like, oh my God, this is not a good feeling. And then Henrietta, of course, gave the results, and not before I had to celebrate, my victory. I had the best time, so a great day for the Hegrebergs. But unfortunately, it was Jerry who went home first, so 3 seconds separated Jerry and Jorgen from, if he dropped one more thing, or if he broke one more egg, that would have been 10 more seconds added to his time, and that would have meant Jorgen going home first. So, and there was so many competitions like that, just one thing that was just twisted just a little bit, and it was just like, wow, it really did come down to fate, I think, at times. I mean, you still had to do your best, you sort of, exert yourself physically or study for the quizzes and stuff like that, but some things were just like, wow, it just came down to fate. And so every week we'd go out and film for 4 days, and we'd take a bus or plane back to Oslo, and we are at the hotel in Oslo here recuperating. And it was nice to get back to the sun. We were told that when the sun comes out in the spring, people in Oslo, in Norway most likely, love to sit out in the sun. And so you can see we're typical Norwegians here. And the next week we were down to Stavanger. And this week, the theme of this week was Norwegian heroes. So each week there was a theme, and we got to learn some new information about Norway. So this week we're learning about heroes here. This is in the port of Stavanger when we were out walking the night before the competition started. And the first person we're learning about is Thor Heyerdahl, Norway's hero, yay! And we watched a little video and about Kon-Tiki. And the first competition was we had to sail this Kon-Tiki boat here across the water, going through little flags, little buoys and stuff like that with a remote control. But the guy who's driving is blind with a blindfold on, and the teammates are trying to get him to turn and move forward and get through the gates and stuff like that. And then there was 5 gates, and depending on how many gates you went through, depended on how many questions you got to answer on the quiz. And we only got 3 right, and the Team Red got all 5 of the gates, and so they had the advantage for the quiz, and ultimately they won the quiz, so Team Blue lost, or my team again, I should say, lost again. So, and there you are, you can see the boats going through the gates there. There's Henrietta and Jorgen standing on the other side, Polynesia right there. So, but it was, again, it comes down to fate. When Team Red went first, and it was like this, really calm, they just sailed through the gates. When Team Blue had their turn, the wind was blowing, and we couldn't even get the boat over to because it was a zigzag back and forth. We couldn't even get the boat over there, so we just had to try and get the 3 that we could actually get. We couldn't even, they were like, you're going to have all the time you want, don't worry about it. We tried to get over, we couldn't, and the director was like, stop, go. It was like, that's not fair. You told, the other team got all the time they wanted, but it was like, it comes down to why the wind decided to blow then, I don't know, but anyways, it did, so since we lost, and Jorgen had the Spirit Award that week, he had the Spirit Award, the Norwegian Spirit Award, so he was like he ended up becoming the prize. The team that won the first team competition got Jorgen, the best athlete on the team, to do the team handball competition. Fate. Because of course, the red team with these 3 tall, sturdy Norwegians, they fared pretty well in the team handball competition. So I think the final score was 9-3, with Jorgen scoring 7 of the points. And the former basketball player still playing semi-professional baseball. You couldn't ask for 2 better sports to be an all-star handball player. And so I will add here though that this number 13 over here, Hegreberg, got 2 scores for Team Blue. So, yay! And so, but we ultimately lost again. So then we had Team Blue went into the elimination competition again. Yeah, and then here is our coaches here. More Norwegian heroes from the women's national team that won 4 championships in a row. Pretty good, yeah, pretty good. And so the individual competition here was another one of Norway's heroes, Edvard Munch, and his famous painting Skrik. And one of the reasons it's famous because it's been stolen before. And so we're going to be art thieves here. And so they got us dressed in black. And how this competition works is we had to go through this building behind us. We had to go up the stairs, over the roof, down the ladder, over the window, down the stairs, through the hall, through the room, past the guard, into the studio, grab the painting, out the window, out the door, into the van. But we didn't know where we were supposed to be going and what we were supposed to be doing. And so a member of the team competition's winning team, we were paired up together. So they had a communicator on them, and we had an earphone piece on us, and we could communicate with them. So as we're going through the course, they had to tell us to turn right, to go through the window, to go down the stairs. And so depending on how well they gave instructions, depending on how well we did. And actually, now when I went back and looked at the episode, there was a few people that got some errant directions, I don't think it was their fault. They was just reading ahead or didn't give the right direction at the right time, because that happened to me. I got sent in the wrong way, and we were watching, it was like, yep, it wasn't quite clear. So, but that was, it just like fate, why, just all these little things that added up to someone going home that week. So, but we went into the final, oh, there he is, over the roof, down the ladder, through the window, down the stairs, through the... and there we are. I was pretty good, I would say. I did pretty good on that. I don't want to make it a side business, so I like telling this story as a side business, if I could do that one day. Anyway, because it's a great story to share. So, but I jumped in the van and we got away. We didn't get any money though. So, but it ended up being a fake. Again, fate. So, and then here we are after we did all that. This is just before we went out to see the results. And so it was Carrick here. He actually had the best time, the fastest time. Since I had won the week before, I had the best time the week before, I was feeling pretty confident. I was like, I think I did pretty good. And then Andy and Lee, they were the next two to go. So it was just me and Raquel standing there. And of course, Henrietta takes a long time to share the results when it's just the last two. And so my heart was pounding furiously. And it was like, oh my God, this feels like, walking the razor's edge. And so when Henrietta shared who was going to go home that week, it was actually Raquel. So, but man, oh man, from that second on, it was like game on every second. I wasn't being lackadaisical, but I wasn't really truly giving it 100%. I was probably at 95%. But from that moment on, it was 110%, because that feeling of standing there, being the last two before someone goes home, was the worst feeling ever. So, and now we're up in the snow again. Yeah, I got my sweater. And this week, this is episode 4, we're learning about Norwegian holidays. So the first one is, of course, Yule. Yule, yeah. And we got to meet the Yule Nissen. He gave us some presents, which happened to be these sweaters. And then here's our little experience we had of eating a Christmas meal, and we all got bowls of rice porridge, and someone had an almond in it, so we got to experience that. I never did that growing up. That's something that didn't translate or didn't make its way over to America with my grandma. So, but we got to experience it here, which was nice. And then the next competition was on I forget the name for Easter though. Påska. And so what we learned was that Norwegians love to read murder mysteries. So we come around the corner here, and here's Henrietta laying in the snow with a knife sticking out of her back and blood in the snow, and we're like, what does this have to do with Easter? What kind of a crazy... Well, then we find out that it's a time when everyone reads murder mysteries, and here's one of Norway's most famous murder mystery writers. So, and then we had to run around the lodge and do all these things that had to do with Easter, and each little station had a clue, and by the time we got to the board that had all these suspects on it, depending on how many clues you got right, you could deduce who was the murder suspect. So, thankfully, Team Red won this week. Wow, was that a relief? Holy cows, I was the only person at that point to have lost every team competition. And so when I actually was on the winning team, people were, which is so nice, everyone was actually excited for me. Even though some people were going into elimination round, they were like, we're so glad you actually won one. You don't have to go do that again. Because we could see how difficult that is. And of course, we're down in Ulvik now, and they said, jump in, the water is warm. We said, sure, do we need to test it out first? Nah, just jump right in. You'll love it. It's balmy. For Norwegian standards, that is. And so, of course, they had life vests ready and guards. No, they didn't. They just said, swim back as fast as you can. You don't stay out there too long, okay? And so we'd all jumped in, which was fun. It was still wonderful to jump in the water. Actually, earlier that day, in the morning, a few people wanted to go jump in. And I was like, I don't think so. This doesn't sound that fun. I don't know. And then one of the staff, the woman who was in charge of all the Americas, we called them our mamas, it was Mama Britta. She said, I'm going too. I was like, I will definitely go then. I can't not go now. So we had jumped in earlier that morning too. So I wasn't so apprehensive here. I jumped in because I knew how cold it was and it wasn't going to be as big of a shock. So, but nonetheless, I've been in the water in Norway, in a beautiful fjord. So that was a good thing. This is in Ulvik, by the way, which is where we celebrated 17. Mai. Here's where we're getting our bunads.
Dear Barrett, this is Sunnifjord bunad, the country your ancestors came from, and the pattern is hundreds of years old. Oh my god, it's so bright. My bunad is so cool, I can't even get over it. Honestly, I really think it's crazy because it's so neat.
I think this is supposed to open.
It's got sort of that like ethnic, native, kind of like bohemian vibe to it. I can't even believe how much it fits my personality. There it got her bunad, and I was so excited because I just knew that meant that we were all getting bunads, which is like the moment I've been waiting for.
Ooh, it's already blinged.
It is blinged out.
Ooh.
Ooh la la.
Oh my. I think George Michael might have something like that. I'm nervous. I'm like, can I pull this off?
You
Can I
can definitely pull this off.
I'm loving the shoes. Anything with a buckle. It was very regal and like the gold. It was Colby-licious, is what it was. Look at this, Liam. It's a dress.
I feel like
I'm an elf in Lord of the Rings. It's my fantasy living itself out. I was a little uncomfortable when I saw that it was a dress bunad. I was maybe expecting that I would be in the men's outfit with the little knickers. This is the first time I have put a dress on in as long as I can remember. But I took a few deep breaths and I thought, all right, I will be a lady today.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I look super Norwegian.
How you do?
My dad would like start crying. He would have teared up because I think that even more so than my wedding dress one day, that's like the most meaningful dress that I'll wear.
Wearing the bunad made me feel extremely proud. And even though it is a dress, I think that part kind of went out the window. It was way more important to be representing my family and my ancestors.
I just can't stop looking at it. I'm not being vain. It's awesome because you see the mountains.
I know, exactly. That's the whole thing right there. Standing there in the mirror looking at myself, the first thing I thought of would have made my mom very proud to see me in this bunad, looking so handsome and so Norwegian. Which it really did. That was an amazing experience. And the funny thing is, when we all showed up in New Jersey to do our orientation before flying to Norway, everyone had said the same thing. I just want to get to the episode where we wear our bunads. It was so important for every American to experience that. And obviously it's an amazing, to be in an outfit from your area and then know that it's something that's part of the tradition, all of that. But even though we had never worn one, or I don't think I'd even seen one before in my life, it was until I saw episode or season 3, it was just, wow, it was just something behind that. It just captivated all of us. And we just all, that was our goal. All of us had that goal. That was the first goal. Just make it to the episode where we get to wear a bunad. So I did it, yay! And so luckily, because that was the same day that we had to go into eliminations. And so it was such a wonderful day, you know, to start with, and the breakfast we had, and being in the parade, but then someone had to go home that day. So it was kind of a bittersweet day, but here we all are on this farm, high up above the hill over Ulvik. And it was so amazing. This family, they put out these tables out on the lawn, and they made us a huge breakfast. And that's where we had our breakfast the morning of 7 Mai, was to have these beautiful snow-capped mountains in the background and the water down below, and there's all this. It was such an amazing, as I say, the best breakfast I've ever had in my life. So partly because of the food, but partly because we were all in our bunads. It was so beautiful, and this family was so sweet and so generous. And I can't wait to go back there one day, because I left there without saying "Tak for maten." And if anyone deserved it, they did, because they just went all out for us. So I have to get back here one day and do that. But there we all are in our bunads. It was such a proud moment, and yes, I think my mom would have been very proud. And so, and I was so Norwegian looking that day, is when I got back to the hotel, these Japanese tourists stopped and said, "Hey, look at this Norwegian, can we get your picture with us?" I said, "Sure, of course." I think I just said, yeah. And so somewhere in Japan, there's a family that's got a very proud picture with themselves and a fine-looking Norwegian. So, and here we are walking in the parade. It was such an amazing day. We had so much fun. And actually, when I was walking with Eric towards the end, and as we were walking up to where they were doing the parade, and I was like, "Eric, I have to come back one day and do this in Stavanger with my family." So, as long as there's an invite, I think I'll do that one year. Yeah? I can come back and do that with you guys? Awesome, I would love to do that. So, yeah, I'll bring, of course, then I will bring my wife and kids for sure for that. Yeah, we will definitely all come back for that. So, and of course, now we're into the competitions. The losing team, which included Jorgen, they had a race a potato back and forth, and then they had to go to a station and read something in Norwegian, memorize, and then repeat it back to somebody. And then they had to go to station 3, which was braiding a girl's hair. And station 4 was a quiz on when was the Constitution signed and who was the king and all that stuff like that. And then they had to go to a station where they had to throw balls at some cans and knock them over. And of course, Jorgen, by far the best athlete on the team, and by far the worst hair braider on the team. As you can tell, he's kind of fumbling it through there, and him and Eric actually just did terrible on this. They did the hair up, and they looked at the judge who's standing right here, and she's like, "Nah." So they had to undo the braid and do it back up, and they looked at her again, "Nah." And they had to undo it and do it back up again. I think finally they're just like, just go. Now you're like, this is getting, painful to watch. And so both Eric and Jorgen did bad. They both knew it. And so back at the hotel that afternoon, we were having lunch before we went and got the results. It was so quiet. And they were just, these guys are normally very talkative. They're just sitting in their chairs in the lobby. You could see they're just like sick to their stomachs. They're just like so, like feeling it. And of course, when they finally got to the results, Jorgen was the one who won home that week. So again, it just comes down to fate of having a competition where you got to braid a girl's hair. And it has to be, the ends needed to be this long. That was the rules, which they showed them all. Before, they went to each station, and the producer said, "This is what you have to do here. You have to braid the hair, put the knot in this far up from the bottom," and stuff like that. So they knew that. Just under the stress, they just could not do it. So Jorgen had to go home that week. So then we moved on. We're back in Oslo now for this must be episode 5, and we're going to learn about the nature of Oslo. And the very first thing we got to do is come experience the Kolonihagen in Oslo. They have these little villages of all these cottages that were built, so people who were living in the city could have a place to go in the city still, but kind of look like the country, and they could have a garden and raise vegetables and have a time to relax. So it was really fun staying there. Actually, they were very quaint. And then we had our meal there. Going the wrong way. Now I'm just going through. wanted that to show. That wasn't what I wanted to show you. Come on. Oh, there you go. So here we are enjoying our meal, our fresh, I forget whether there's some sort of soup. It was a vegetable soup. Again, this is kind of the experience part of it. We're having fun, and they're filming us having fun here before the competition. So the next day we're in this forest in Oslo, and we're told that this forest is the geographical center of Oslo. Not a building in sight, just woods and this big lake. So they were trying to emphasize, how much greenery and how much park space there is in Oslo, which is awesome. And then the competition was there were stations around this lake, and you had to go to one station, build a tent, and the next station, and shoot the wolf with the air gun, and the next station pick some mushrooms, stuff like that. So we raced around this lake. We're at the station where we had to shoot the wolf, the target, or the paper wolf, not a real wolf, which ended up being a controversy right here because they're not supposed to shoot wolves in Norway. And there we are racing around the lake, and we took about 20 minutes to go around this whole lake. And when we got the results, there was just 16 seconds that separated the two teams. Just like, wow. And at the end, there was this big mud bog, which is kind of hard to run through. And me and Travis were out ahead. We were trying to find the best path through it. And then Barrett and Andy came up at the end, and we're just like, please, come on, let's go. We can do it. Run as fast as you can. Because they were so exhausted by that point. But we got across the finish line, luckily, 6 seconds ahead, or what did I say, like 12 seconds, whatever it was. It was like 16 seconds ahead of the other team. So, and as it turns out, I don't think this has happened in other seasons, but in this season, season 4, every team that lost the first team competition lost the second team competition and went into the eliminations. And so this year in season 5, there was actually many teams that lost the first one and came back and won the second one. And so it was kind of the pattern was being set, and I could see that, and it became so important to win that first team competition because no one was making it out alive after that first team competition if you didn't have the advantage. So we won the first team competition, and the next team competition was we're rounding the corner here in Oslo, and we're coming to this beach, a nude beach that is, which is Hook. And so they have all these nude people laying on the beach, and they got all these plastic bottles scattered all around them and kind of right next to them. And so our job was to race from the finish line out into the naked people and grab as many bottles as we could and get them back across the finish line. And even though there was lots of naked breasts and other parts, exposed there, as you can see, I was not very focused on those naked parts. I was very focused on these little things right here and getting as many of those back across that finish line as I could. So that is the face of a victor right there, I'm telling you. That is 110% Alt for Norge. And so Team Blue ended up winning. Yay! We got more bottles across, and the advantage did help us. And so they went to the elimination competition, and you have this. It's a quiz now. So they got all these different places representing nature in Oslo, and the people went through a quiz. And so the person on the losing team that went home this week was Angela, unfortunately. Which is kind of tough to watch because she got behind, and then by the time the results were announced, everyone kind of knew that this was going to happen. But she took it like a sport, and it's funny. She's big city girl and loves the cities and all this stuff like that. And we had been outside of Oslo all this time, and when we came back into Oslo, we stayed on the outskirts. We stayed in Linna, we stayed in Lillestrøm. We never came right into Oslo. And this is the first episode where we actually came into Oslo, and then she went home. And then that night after she left, the producers of Alt for Norge, TV Norway, took us out for this huge dinner, all the wine you could drink, as many courses you could want. It was this feast for the Romans, the gods, and she couldn't be there that night. When she heard, she was like, oh my God, that is terrible. But anyways, that's how it goes in Alt for Norge. When your time is up, your time is up. And so she had to leave the show. And so we went from Oslo to Lofoten! Wow, what an amazing, amazing place. And so we're out on the fishing boat coming in here and looking at this absolute gorgeous scenery. And here we are at the dock, wondering what the heck we're going to do. And then we discover these little bags next to us, canvas gunny sacks that had something in them. And by the time we finished with that little experience, we no longer look like this. We look like this. Fierce Vikings! This week we're going to learn about the Vikings. And so the first competition was we had to pillage a village. We had to get some virgins, and we had to grab some sheep and get the gold and grab the food. And while you're doing that, there's angry villagers throwing mud at you and seaweed at you. And so me and Carrick, we were charged with stealing the virgins. And so this part of the course wasn't so bad, but a few feet forward, all of a sudden we started getting pelted with seaweed and mud. And then we get to the other side, and we have to climb this hill in the back here, which was not the easiest thing to do with a virgin on your shoulder. But unfortunately, we got the virgins across the finish line, but we didn't plan this one out well enough. The two sheep were already spooked because the other team went before us, and they had to drag the sheep up over the hill. So the sheep ended up bolting on Leave, and because she didn't come back across the finish line without the sheep, we were disqualified from the first team competition. And as you can guess, that didn't fare well for the second team competition, although it might be different, I don't know. Let me share the story here. Here we are, hanging over the water. And this competition was actually very interesting because, you know, there's us in the background. We're doing a tug of war here in the background, and there was an arm wrestling competition. There was some other competitions. So as you're blindfolded, hanging here out over the water, the team that loses, their member gets dropped into the fjord 15 feet down. But what they're measuring is the day before they put a heart monitor on us and rested our resting heart rate. And now they're measuring our heart rate as we're hanging above the fjord, listening to our teammates in the background. And so depending on the variation between your resting heart rate and where your heart rate was at the maximum during this competition, that's what they added up. So, and as you can see here, it's Travis and Andy. Luckily, blue team won the tug of war, and Travis went into the water there. And then when me and Eric were above the water, they had to drink a little glass of ox blood. And you can see that they just were thinking this was like some of the most delicious stuff on the planet. That stuff is like, but they all chugged it down. So me and Eric, actually, neither of us went into the water, but still, our team didn't fare well. We ended up losing that one. So in the end, it ended up being me and Andy and Carrick out on the island. The Vikings, how they settled disputes was 2 Vikings went out to the island with axes or swords, and 1 came back. So and there was a name for that, I forget it now. But so us 3 went out on this island, and it was a quiz, and only 2 were going to come back. And so we went out there for this quiz, and Andy was the first one safe, and then it ended up just being me and Carrick. And although they don't show this on the episode, they show it as soon as Andy went off, then just one more question was asked, and one of us was safe. And actually, we were tied, and we went, I think, 3 more questions before the actual question was asked. And then, about halfway through that, the writer leaned down to whisper something to the director, and the answer she was holding flipped open, so we saw all the answers. And so, as I was sitting there, just immediately I went, oh my God, I just saw all the answers right there. And so, I have no idea, how that would have unfolded differently if we had answered that question, me and Carrick. But anyways, it ended up where I ended up answering the right question. So again, it just came down to, maybe that would have been to his advantage, that one, or it's just like, it's so funny how this thing played out. But anyways, at the end of the quiz, I got the last question right, and so Carrick was the one who went home. And at this time, it was so intense because we were tied for several questions. It was such an intense experience. When they interviewed me afterwards, I was like suffering. I was like, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I told them it felt like we were just in a plane accident, and for some reason I walked away and Carrick didn't. That's what it felt like to me. It was such a near-death experience. It was so, and Carrick was my roommate, and so of course when I get back to the lodge that night, he's not there. It was a really weird experience. And then unfortunately for this one, because we're out on the island and the one who lost stayed there, that was kind of how they set it up. Even though in past, every competition, the person who loses, we get to say goodbye and give them one last hug and, kind of give a farewell, and they wouldn't let us say goodbye. And we were so upset. It was like, he's standing right there, let us just go say goodbye. They said, no, get on the bus, we're going back to Oslo. And so, reality TV, those buggers. Anyways, but that's how that one played out. And so the next week we're off to Kristiansand, so way up north to way down south. And this week is Norwegian childhood, so we're tying clam meat onto strings and fishing for crabs. And then we didn't catch any crabs. It wasn't that good of a fishing day, but they got some in some buckets there, and we ended up, the first team competition, even though we're all strong, we're all smart, and we're all so capable, they let crabs run a race for us. Fate. And we're yelling at the crabs and pounding at the boards and trying to get them to move, and they wouldn't move at all. And then they moved a little bit, and finally Andy's took off like a banshee. He went way out in front, and in the end, their crabs got more points than our crabs, and so Team Red lost. So as you can imagine, we went to the second competition, which was a quiz. We had to go out into the town of Christiansen, and we were given pictures of Captain Sableton and all these different all the different childhood characters. I can't think of their names right now, even though they're right there on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of their names. There was 12. We had these pictures, and they had all the pictures of these Captain Sableton. Who were some other ones? You probably know them. Childhood characters. Carissa Bactus, yes, that was one of them. Yeah, and the guy Bert, I think. Bert, does that sound familiar? Bert. There's a guy, and there was a big animal that reminded you to brush your teeth. Floria. All of those characters. And so we got to go out into the audience or into the townspeople and interview them. What was this character known for? You know, did they have a brother? Did they have this? Trying to ask any question we could to get any type of information, because it was all the quiz decided that. So, but of course we didn't win that quiz because we didn't win the first team competition, and no one who lost the first team competition got that far. So here we are in Captain Sableton's theme park, and we don't know what the heck's going to go on here. Although Eric, he's looking like a pretty good pirate.
Yeah.
Plus he's from Tampa Bay, which is the pirate city, and they have a big pirate festival every year. Plus he's got his handlebar mustache there. Plus he's a real character on top of it. So anyway, what we had to do was sing Captain Sableton's most famous song, Heave Ahoy, it's not enough to die. And of course there's Terry Formo. He's giving me some coaching lessons here. So he's like, here you go. And I still remember this. Here, listen to this. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. Yeah. Terry was a pretty good coach, I have to say. He had it down. He's a really good pirate, actually. And so we went onto the ship, and we're dressed as pirates, and I'm battling the pirates, and I'm doing this with the girls, and being a rock star up there. And even though they didn't show it in the episode, I climbed up to the top of the tower, and I stole the captain's hat, and I waved it around, and came back down, and jumped off, and did all that stuff. Little did I know, though, that Eve was this, world-class gymnast, so she's doing no-handed cartwheels and other gymnastic, moves, and of course Eric is just Eric, and so we get here to the resort, and here we are celebrating afterwards with our pirate buddies, and then here's the results from
Liv and Greg, two beautiful and brave pirates.
Oh, thank you.
One of you got 36% of the votes, and the other one got 18% of the votes. The person that soon will have to walk the plank and then, unfortunately, leave Norway and out for Norge is Greg.
Congratulations, Dave. Wow. Wow.
I want to say I was surprised because I'm a great performer and I thought I did a great job up there, but at the same time, just Eric and Liv, they have those qualities that make kids smile and laugh, so hats off to them for going out there and putting on a great show for the kids, and they deserve to continue on.
We're both pirates.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it feels really good. I was trying not to feel so good. I mean, I felt really bad for Greg, but I was really sure it was going to be me that was leaving. And it was a huge relief.
As a fully fledged pirate, it is my duty to see to that you can walk the plank.
Walk the plank. So this is it? Walk the plank?
Well, yeah.
Awesome, I can walk the plank.
Honorable way
triple, double axle?
Yeah.
One of those? Oh, what a big old cannonball. That was a very fitting ending to walk off the plane. Got a pirate ship. Through being a pirate for the day, that was no problem. That's a pirate!
Greg, unfortunately, he had to leave us today. But he left like a proud, fighting pirate. He walked the plank with dignity. In fact, he did a very appropriate cannonball. And he went out with a bang. He really did. He gave his best performance, and I'm really proud of what he did today.
Alt for Norge. So what I failed to say, though, for those who didn't see the episode, our judges for that day were 5-year-old kids. So some tough audience members to please there. And so Eric and Lee, I think, had the upper hand that day. So unfortunately, no matter how good, the director said that, no matter how good you would have done, I don't think you would have won the day. It was just fate. So, and unfortunately, the only thing unfortunate about this, even though it was great that I got to jump off the pirate ship, anyone else jumped off Captain Sableton's ship? Any other Norwegians? I didn't think so. I'm probably one of the only ones who ever done that. So, although I'm feeling pretty special about that, usually at the end of an episode, they show the family book scene, which is this very touching part at the end. But they didn't show for this one, so I asked the producers what happened. They said, well, normally the people just leave afterwards. You know, you give them a hug and then they walk off. But we had to show this walking off the plank scene, and we just ran out of time, so we decided just to put the whole thing on the web. So unfortunately, because it's such a touching point of the show, the family book scene didn't make it into the episode that aired, but it was on the internet. And for those who didn't see it, this is what was on the internet. This has been such an amazing journey, and I've learned so much here in Norway that I'm kind of a different person. It's a very unique place, and I will always cherish this time here.
I have a present for you. This book. It contains information about your Norwegian relatives and some pictures of you guys and your journey.
Wow, what an amazing group. This is my family tree. There's my grandpa's oldest brother who died when he was 16. My grandpa had a picture of him all his life, and he always wondered what his older brother was like. I think it's so important as we journey through life to know who we are. Not being able to meet my Norwegian family here, it's a tough one to let go of. But on the other hand, I have missed my family, and specifically my kid is just so much this trip. So I'm very happy actually to be reunited with them soon enough. And I have so many wonderful stories to share with them. From being in the snow in the very beginning to have swam in the waters and have eaten the food, to putting on a bunad from my area, which was so special. And one day I hope that my wife and I can renew our vows and I can be in my bunad. I think that would be such a wonderful, wonderful way to celebrate our love for each other. I think we just need to come back as a family and experience Norway together. So when I'm talking about how excited I am about being Norwegian and all the things I know about being Norwegian, that my wife and kids have a sense of what that is too. Yay, and I actually have the family book right here, if you'd like to take a look at it afterwards. So, and just, you know, it came to me right now as I was listening to that. In the Varberg book, which is right here, which is, this is Magnus's copy, I was reading this just before I came here, because my dad pulled it out of storage. I hadn't seen it in like 20 years. I saw it as a teenager there. I was like, all right. What's next? What's to eat? Where's didn't mean a whole lot when I was a teenager. Now it means a whole lot. I was reading that story is that, you know, my grandpa was probably like 2 when his older brother Theodore died, who was 16. And I just read in here, they had just got their first car a week before he died. And he had driven in it once, and then he died. And their oldest sister was just reminiscing how he was so excited that they got their first car. And then he died of like black fever. But because my grandpa never knew him, he had this picture by his desk. My whole life, I remember that picture being by his desk. And I remember him saying that day, I really wish I could have known my brother. So that's why I mentioned that when I saw his name. I was like, oh, Theodore, that's my grandpa's brother who you always wanted to meet and know, and he never had a chance to. So that was the end of my Alt for Norge journey, in a way, because when I got back to Oslo with the producer, he said, we're standing outside the car there before I got took into the airport, because the next day I was in LA. It was like, you're gone, and you're make the transition, as tough as it may be, you're home. So that's the name of the game on reality TV. So, but we were standing at the car, and it was like, he goes, don't look at this at the end. You have your family information now. He goes, look at this as the beginning. And so he was right. Although it was the end of the TV experience, it certainly wasn't the end of my Alt for Norge experience. And I feel like I have that today. So thank you all again. It's amazing. I've dreamed of this for so long. Here I am in front of you sharing this story and having this time together and being on Vestre Åmøy. Close? Better than when I was growing up. It's Vestre Åmøy, or Åmøy. I forget how he said it. It wasn't Åmøy. Åmøy. So, which is so amazing. And then, of course, we've always heard about Hegreberg Hill. That's how we talked about it in America. Was got to go see Hegreberg Hill, not Hegreberg. That's what Hegreberg means, of course. Hill, but and so today I got here last night when it was dark. So today Magnus took me around. We got to go look around and see this beautiful place. It's amazing to be here. And so, of course, it didn't end for the other cast members. So for those who didn't see the show, the next week they went up to Trondheim. And they were experiencing farm life here, and so you can see they had to do some competitions they had to corral a bunch of sheep and do some other things. One of them, they had to eat all of these different foods before any of the competitions began. And then the final team, the team red went to the elimination. Of course, they lost the first team competition, so they're the ones who went to the elimination. So even though they had tasted this, 4 days before, that was the competition. Blindfolded, they had to eat a bite of all this food and try and guess what it was. And so, of course, Lee was excellent at it. She got all of them right. And so it came down between Colby and Travis. And even though both of them are brilliant, smart, amazing, all of that, gifted in all their ways, they didn't get all the ones right as far as what food it was. And so the person who got the least amount right was Travis. So again, when I talked to him, he was just like, he's, one of the smartest people I know. He's so intelligent, so smart, so driven. He's a stockbroker in Minneapolis now. And it came down to tasting food that you had tried 4 days before and try to remember if it was rummelgrot or, rockfish or whatever it was. It was like, and that's what it came down. He got one more wrong than Colby. He got 2 wrong, or 3 wrong, and Colby got 2 wrong. So, but that's all it was, and now he's home. So then they go back to Oslo, and they're learning something more historical facts and about government this week. And so they have these quizzes, and then they have this. They're learning here about the government and stuff like that. And so then the final competition, to see went home. They got for 2 minutes. They got to look at this board. It had all the coat of arms for the 26 counties in Norway. So they had 2 minutes to memorize them and the exact order they were in. And then they got to go over to a table with a stack of chips, and they had to place these in the exact order that they had memorized them. And then they revealed one by one, and the first person to get one of them wrong, home. And so for this competition, it happened to be Colby. And then now they go into now that was episode 9, the semifinals. Now they go into the finals. So we have up here in Bergen, and then it's Eric and Liv and Barrett and Andy. And then they have this competition here where they have to, Henrietta gives them a word and they have to spell it properly. They all got ul, right? Ul, o, ul. which is the O with a slash and an L. I can even spell that one. But not everybody got as many right, so it ended up being Andy getting not as many right as the others. So, and although when they're in the semi or in the finals, even though she lost, she still got to she still hung around the rest of the week. So that was one thing. If you got to the finals, even though you might lose one of the early rounds, you would still get to hang around and be there for the person who wins the show. Then we went to they're on the top of the hill now in Bergen, and they're doing a quiz. And Barrett happened to get the ones right first, so it's between Eric and Liv. And then they asked the question, in what country did Thor Heyerdahl leave from? They both clicked like that, but Eric happened to click just a millisecond before Liv. And of course, Liv went home, or she lost, so now we have, again, it was just, you could see them both jerk at the same time, but Eric got there just a millisecond before. And so now we have Eric and Barrett. They're in the two last standing here. So they're on this property in Bergen. They have to go to all these stations. They have to ski across the lawn and then answer a quiz. And then, they have to save a Swede from drowning. All these things Norwegians have to do, huh? To stay clear of Danes on the ski slopes. And you have to pull Swedes out of the water when they're swimming by you. So crazy. I didn't know all this stuff before I came here, but now I do. So I'll be on the lookout for Swedes and Danes. And then, of course, they went through all this quiz. They had the kids, and they had to do all the kids thing again. And then they got to the final station, which is they just had to sing the first two lines of the national anthem. And Barrett remembered it, and Eric didn't. And so the longer you stand there, the more time is ticking away. So he was just like, I don't know what he want. And Barrett kind of worked her way through the first two lines. So, and so the winner was Barrett. Yay! Barrett was the winner of season 4, and here she is at her farm, and with her family member here. And here's her mom and her dad. Her mom and her dad. They surprised her by flying in her mom and dad to celebrate with her this trip. So Barrett was the winner of season 4. And although she was a winner of the season 4 and got to meet her family, as I was told the other day when I was visiting with the producers, is that that day, you're on a shooting schedule and it's union workers, so they got a schedule and you have to be finished when it's finished. And so they kind of just blast through and they got to do all the interviews. And so they said, really the contestant gets very little time with their family. And when I told them this was happening, I felt like I won. They said, you're probably getting a better deal because you could have all this time and I got to stay with my family. And it's just like, wow. And so truly, I feel like I'm the grand prize winner. So it was amazing to have this experience today. And there they are with their family reunion at the very end. And so I would like to line all of us up here along the front and have a big picture at the end if we can all do that. I think that would be brilliant. And then finally, just a few side notes here. This last 7 Mai in 2014, a bunch of us alumni from all 4 seasons met in Seattle. And in Ballard, this community of Seattle, they have the largest parade outside of Norway. And so we all met there, and we all drank a lot of beer and shared a lot of stories. And even though a lot of us hadn't met each other before, because we'd all been through this experience, we all felt so bonded. It was really weird how we knew each other because of this experience. And then Elf, from season 3 here, he brought his big horn, his sheep horn, and he makes homemade mead. So he filled it with mead, and we passed this horn around, and we gave thanks for, all for Norge and stuff like that. And we passed it around again, and we gave thanks for our ancestors. We passed it around again, we give thanks for this experience we're having. And we just had this most amazing day. And so we all made this commitment that every year, except for the year I come here for 7 Mai, of course. But every year, that's where we're going to meet for the big parade, is in Seattle in Ballard. And I have no doubt next year will be much bigger. There was just 13 of us, I think, this year. And so we have the winner from season 2, Maddie Rowe. We have the winner from season 1, Doug. And we have the winner from season 3, Todd. And Barry couldn't make it. She was doing something else. But it was like so many people showed up. It was an amazing experience. And hopefully next year we have twice as many people and really have a great time. And here is Anders, as I've now come to know him, and Anna. And here is their, so there's 7 kids here, so they had 11, or no, so there was maybe 10. We'll have to look. The book here has all the kids that were born, but I think 3 of them passed away. So, and here's my grandfather, Clarence Hegreberg. And then here's Art, and his wife, Bertha, is the only one still alive from this group. And I just met with her in September. And she was telling me, you know, I asked her if she'd ever met Anders before, and she said just once at their wedding. And they just had one brief conversation. But Anna ended up living with them after Anders died. And so was Art and Bertha, and I think it was Norman here. They all lived together, and then Anna lived with them, and they farmed this one farm near Spicer. And even though the story when I was growing up was that Anna was glad to leave Vestre Åmøy because she hated rowing the boat across the open water here to bring the vegetables and fish to the market in Stavanger. That's the story I heard growing up. And then, but she told me that every night after dinner, after they finished cleaning up, Anna would go out onto the porch and she would sing Norwegian songs. And this is towards the end of her life, so I'm sure at one point or another she missed home. And so, tusen takk. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I enjoy sharing that story. It's like I'm a storyteller, I'm a songwriter, and I've done theater, and I've done all kinds of stuff, and I love telling stories, and this is like the funnest story to tell. So I'm so happy that there's Sons of Norway lodges in the United States that welcome me to come speak about this. Because it really is a wonderful story to retell and to relive that amazing experience. So the once-in-a-lifetime journey that they told us would happen. So, but as I said, here's the book that my grandma made. It has lots of stuff in there. Then here's the Ultra Norge book. And then here is the, I don't know if any of you have seen the Hegreberg Family book. This was made in the USA. And there's a section in here on the Hegrebergs. Well, as far as Anna being married to the Hegrebergs. But there's some nice stories in there and stuff like that. So if you want, come and look at those, and then we can talk some more here, I guess, so before our night's over. So again, thank you all so much for coming out and enjoying this experience. And thanks so much for Magnus and Ellen and Carina and Espen and Thomas for helping organize all this and making all this happen. Thank you for letting me stay with you and talk for Martin so much. This has meant the world to me to have this experience, so thank you both so much. When I got home from Norge, I was going through my, my boxes and stuff like that, and I found this song. And this is the first song I ever learned to play, and the first song I ever played in public, a long time ago, back in the early 90s. And but for today, I have a special rendition for you. I've changed some of the words so that they are more related to this experience that we're having today here on Vestre Åmøy and Hegreberg. And so there's going to be some word changes. So before you jump right in and start singing along, you might want to listen to the first time I go through the chorus. And then after that, if you feel comfortable, please join me in singing Take Me Home, Country Roads. Almost heaven, Vestre Åmøy, Hegreberg, Åmøyfjorden, Life is old here, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. Vestre Åmøy Hegreberg, take me home. Country roads, all my memories gather round them, truths and unders, father and son. Dark and cloudy, painted on the sky, yummy taste of lips saw, teardrops in my eyes. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. Vestre Åmøy Hegreberg, take me home. Country roads, I hear her voice in the morning now. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get the feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday. Okay, now everyone sing along. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. Vestre Åmøy Hegreberg, take me home. Country roads, and one more time. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. Vestre Åmøy Hegreberg, take me home. Country roads, take me home down the country road.